Hello, I shared the PPT. Shared. Now I'm beginning to the chapter 2. What is performance? Performance in life and culture. Okay. The title of this course is the performance theories. We are going to go on this lecture in the context of performance aesthetics because we ultimately met in the context of theory and performance. The problem is, what is performance? What comes to your mind when it comes to the performance? What relations are there between life and performance? What is the performance of life? Because you, as a theater producer, maker, actor, performing artist, deflect, reconstruct, and practice the performance in your lives on the stage in an aesthetic context in some ways. In this sense, you should observe the performance in your lives thoroughly. Basically, the core of a human being's life is made of thoughts, words, and languages, actions, materials, which relate each other. More broadly, how everyday life and culture are shown. The agenda are languages and the related symbols and signs. And added behavior and action is symbolized and reconstructed. And the materials as their embodied version. But the core is performance, I think, in a relationship with languages and the materiality. I hope this lecture would be an opportunity for you to understand our life, culture, and performance aesthetics, focusing on the performance. I emphasize on the performance, focusing on the performance, and to find, if you reflect the performance, and to find your own wisdom for reflecting, healing, and changing yourself. Today, let's talk briefly about what the performance is. The relation between life and performance. Think about. We will think about it. But if I talk first, performance is a reconstructed action. Performance. If we say performance, that means a reconstructed action. In dictionaries, performance is defined as to perform. It means the behavior, action, or happening of a specific subject. But in the context of a narrative, it means a plot, an accident, a happening or event. Actually, the action or performance represents the action. Actually, the action or performance represents the action itself, the action itself, rather than focusing on meaning. In particular, this has a close relation to time, place, space, location, and it connects human experience, perception, and representation. we will think about related with this thing, the aesthetic of a perception, the aesthetic experience. For a behavior or an action to have a strong meaning of or function, I mean, if we emphasize the meaning in the aspect of our performance, and it needs to be a plot. We go to Aristotle's theory. It needs to be a plot in narrative, a causal construction of what happened in Australian meaning, Aristotle's meaning, or symbolic action we need. Go to Aristoteles. Aristoteles claimed that literature and theater, tragedy should present a new and powerful theme or thought by the construction of human behavior and action with a probability. He said there's a plot, namely myth. Yes. It is the representative and realistic narrative construction method and the theater of the West that has been developed and made based on this thought and method. But the term performance is used too in non-aesthetic discussion, as well as in artistic fields like theater, dance, or musical performance. It is also used in the process of discussing the behavior of human beings, animals, machines, and systems. As you can see in recently made advertisements, the term performance is used as a trend. Moreover, the term performance has been used as a concept related to the ancient literature and in daily life. In aspect of culture, there is so-called cultural performance. Cultural performance is related to the rituals and ceremonies. Cultural performance takes place in life culturally. This concept was suggested by a scholar named Milton Singer. Milton Singer says, cultural performance is a behavior of a minimum unit that makes it possible for the members of a specific group to express and present themselves, make the social association with another members, and make cultural identity. For example, there are weddings, funerals, birthday parties, entrance ceremonies, graduation, coming of age celebration, initiation, celebration, and festivals. These are rituals that show constructed behavior patterns. These are rituals, I repeat, that show constructed behavior patterns. Also, or reconstructed behavior and action. Performance always exists around us. For example, in the school too, it makes the rhythm of our life. For example, those who are planning a performance or exhibition should remember those dates on the calendar. As I would say for the, especially for the person who manage the performance, he or she have to remember this calendar. As it turns out, those rituals above are so-called light of passage. Like so, in anthropological perspective, so-called performance goes through our life. Our life exists by going through a lot of lights of a passage in order. Yeah. The concept of lights of passage was suggested by a French anthropologist Van Gennep. The book Van Gennep is the title is Lights of Passage in French. Okay. As in the example above, cultural performances, a rite of a passage is a kind of symbolic action, you know, and the action with specific patterns, repeating and changing. All right. Remember, repeating and changing. Our life consists of repeating and changing. The rhythm between repeating and changing. Then we should make sure that the cultural performance that shows the symbolism with the reconstruction of a specific action take place in our life. I think the artists have to observe the performance in life and culture and use that for own works. To put it first, artists of so-called performance art, performer of performance-rich performances, or the performing arts, after the 1960s accepted and conceptualized this light of passage. The key words is the boundary and the liminality and the threshold. I will explain about that later in another section. In the they accepted and conceptualized the lights of a passage in their works actively. Therefore, these performances have the terms performativity and the performative aesthetic as their keywords. In terms of art history and aesthetic, action started to arise from the avant-garde arts after the 1920s, including Dadaism, Surrealism and Futurism, and Formalism too. For example, most avant-garde arts that emerged from the late 19th century have a formalistic art and performance. Therefore, in the formative arts is used as a term that encompasses all the arts trends after traditional avant-garde artists started to work on their own physical characteristics and the bodily materiality. It is important. They work physically and bodily, materially, with the materiality. Okay. The research of performance in the theater field comes from Richard Schechner, Richard Schechner, who went through the performance group and the environment theater in the 1960s and 70s. He studied the performance studies in association with related studies from the conventional sub-disciplinary school system, changing the name of the Department of Theater in New York University to the Department of Performance. The subject of the research of current performance theories or aesthetics can include social action of every kind varying from theaters to everyday life, sports, games, or rituals. Despite this fact, the core subject is the consciously restoring behaviors, reconstructed actions that occur between the performer and the participant. The most important purpose and function of this performance is transformation. It is to aim for the transformative power of a performance. This is the key concept suggested by Shehina that connect the right of passage, cultural performance, and the theories of theater construction by cultural anthropologists like Van Gennep or Victor Turner to the theater. And here is the importance of the liminality, threshold, and the liminal experience as an experience of a transformation. However, performance studies in America centered on Shehina have limitations of being focused on folklore theory and dealing with two broad ranges. There is another flow of performance studies in German that make up for the weakness of Shehina studies. German scholars claim that since the 1960s, there have been transformations of a performance in all modern theaters. And therefore, they claim that there needs to be a new theory since the performances in the 1960s cannot be interpreted with the existing theoretical frameworks. This is the content of the first chapter of transformative power performance. So from the next lecture, I'm going to explain the performance aesthetic theories of Western Europe, the performance aesthetic of Fischer Richter. To define the concept of performance in the context of performance aesthetic, using this theory, firstly, performance as a show means performance as a show means every action that is self-referential and the construct of specific reality. It is important. If performance is the act that is self-referential and construct specific reality. This is the condition of a performance. This is a process of constructing specific reality with the actions of the performer themselves being perceived, constructed, and interacted with the audience cognitively. And here, the body, space, sound, voice of the performer make the specific reality through actions. Think about the potential of the performance theories briefly. Overall, the performance theories and the aesthetic are practical studies and arts at the same time that you can use to exchange feedback with the members of other performers as an autonomous performer, changing the field of work and your life. Also, the performance theories do not stay in the knowledge of only one field. Rather, they are based on the cross-artistic and interdisciplinary ideas. Therefore, it would be the basis for you. For example, as a staff member, to be an active performer and subject to all the performance activities you take part in. With the humanistic, artistic, and cultural problem-solving skills and the communication skill drawing appropriate agreement, not relying on the professional skills. When it comes to the knowledge required in the field, namely the problems in the field, Performance theories expand the exciting concept of theater and the studies of theater. Also, they serve as a medium for the research between related studies, such as cultural studies, post-colonialism, feminism, and the media theories, and serve as one of the analytic frameworks in study of mass media. Okay. In the chapter 3, I didn't explain concretely, but it deals with discuss in about the performance in aspect of science. Yes. But in the lecture, we will understand more. Okay. Okay. This is all for the lesson for today. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you later.